Okay. Which headphones do I need? Huh? Can you hear me?
Chair Ryan,
Yes, Lindsay.
the meeting is already streaming. Just want to give you a heads up on that on YouTube.
Okay. Thank you, Lindsay.
Matt, can you hear me?
I can see.
Okay, thanks.
Want to go through it? Can we hear you, Patrice?
I certainly hope so. Good morning.
We sure can. Good morning. Hey, Lucinda, how are you doing there? Can we hear you?
Can you hear me okay?
We sure can. Yeah,
Okay, great.
nice. Looks like I see Lena out there. Are you out there, Lena?
I'm here.
All right. Hey, Judy.
I'm here somewhere.
I see everybody but Geronimo actually from the board.
Yeah. We'll give it a minute or two here. Hopping from meeting to meeting, huh?
Yeah, he was on Alliance this morning, so
Yes, yeah. That was great.
Good morning.
There he is. Hello, Geronimo. And yours is working well. Let's check in with Lena. Are you out there, Lena? Let's give her another minute. Hey, oh, good, already done. I see that our Matt Mcgrath, our local forest ranger, Coconino type, is here. So he's a panelist, so that's good. Hey, Matt, just want to test to see if your voice is working on that.
Good morning, Supervisor Ryan. You got me? Awesome.
Yep, we do. Awesome. Good job. And okay. One more check. See, she's queued up. It's just probably coming back from grabbing a bowl of soup or something like that. Lena, are you out there? Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Today's Friday, January 14th, 2022. And we have a special meeting today. And so first item of business, I'll go in and check in with the supervisors, but let's do the pledge right now. So if everybody could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And now let me check in with each of the supervisors. I'll start with District 1, a chance to say hello. Supervisor Patrice Forsman. Patrice?
Yes, hello and happy Friday and a long weekend, MLK Day. And it's great to remember all that Martin Luther King has done for our country. And it's wonderful that we get to honor a day for him. So welcome all, and it's great to be here and look forward to a very, very informative and thorough discussion on the issues we've got this morning. So thanks everybody, and thank you staff for all your hard work on getting this together.
Thank you.
All right. District 2, Geronimo Vasquez. Geronimo?
Good morning, everyone. Look forward to a good meeting, and just to kind of piggyback off what Supervisor Horseman said about MLK Day this weekend. Please take the opportunities to provide service in your community, but if you're going to do so, please do it safely. You know, we do have a spike in COVID, and so we want to, if we are going to gather with people or be around others, please be masked. Please take your precautions, because right now is not the time to get sloppy with these precautions. So please be safe. Have a great weekend, and looking forward to a good meeting today.
Yeah, as you noted, we see that in our jail, as we all saw out there. We're all working through it, and let's protect ourselves. Let's see. Next up is District 4 Supervisor Judy Piquet. Judy?
Yes, good morning, everyone, my colleagues and staff and anyone that's on the meeting today. Just want to say thanks to everybody, and also have a good MLK Day, and take care and be safe out there. That's it. Thank you.
All right. And then we have Vice Chair and District 5 Representative Lena Fowler. Lena. Oh, you're muted. Oh, I charge the fee. This is a $10 fee now.
Oh, there goes the change into the bucket.
That's right.
So it looks like you're still running on the path, Mr. Chair.
I wore my Cardinals hat. Remember, the Cardinals are playing this weekend.
Okay, well, happy weekend to everyone.
Monday.
Just be safe, and we're going to have great presentations today. Really learn more about our flood district and see what's going on, and we have to always be prepared. So thank you all. Thank you for our staff doing all the great work out there. Thank you.
All right. And with that runs us through the board. Let's see. Next item of business is we need to resolve as the Flood Control District Board of Directors. I need a motion to do so. Go ahead, Supervisor Horseman. I see you're waving your hand
I
there.
move that we are the Flood Control Board of the Flood Control District.
Second.
I have a motion by Supervisor Horseman, a second by Supervisor Vasquez. All in favor of the motion, vote aye.
Aye.
And so the motion carries. We are now acting in the capacity as the Board of Directors of the Flood Control District. And so this first item that we have, just for note, is consideration and possible action to approve a good neighbor agreement with U.S. Forest Service with funding of $3,494,180. And so what I'll do is I'll pause at this point. We'll pass it over to staff. Are we going directly to Lucinda, or Steve, or are you going to make a comment?
No, Mr. Chair, I'll go directly to Lucinda.
Okay, Lucinda, our Board of Director Administrator for the Flood Control District. Lucinda Andriani. Lucinda?
All right, good morning, Chair and Board of Directors of the Flood Control District. I'm very pleased this morning to bring forward an agreement for your consideration. I think Matt and I were discussing yesterday that this is probably a record within, frankly, probably both organizations in terms of being able to secure an agreement in record time. And I think that really reflects the awareness of both organizations, the community, our congressional delegation, of the importance of mitigating the flooding in the museum flood area. And this agreement will provide about $3.5 million toward sediment reduction measures that will be constructed on National Forest land below, well, just on the edge of the burn scar, and then below that, there's a set of about 4 different locations on both tributaries, both the west and east tributary, that where we will construct measures to again reduce sediment. Those involve both grade control, so stabilizing channels, so they are not producing as much or much less sediment and restoring alluvial fans, which are the wide areas that will spread the water out, slow the water down, and allow the sediment to drop out. And these measures are critical. They're a prerequisite to flood mitigation downstream, particularly within the city of Flagstaff. As you're all aware, the current conveyance system is being overwhelmed by sediment, and as well as any expansion that the city may choose to invest in, of which they are. They have 2 projects they're intending to construct this spring in the Dothan, Maine location. And those additional investments would be frankly rendered pretty ineffective if we can't lower the amount of sediment entering the city. Natural Channel Design has done the sediment study and identified reduce upwards of 75% of the sediment that's entering the city. That's significant. That will tremendously influence the ability to, again, of the current conveyance as well as any expansion of that conveyance. So we're very excited, thrilled to have the Forest Service support this very important work. And we're going to utilize every area that we can that can help reduce this sediment again before it enters the areas. And it will also support, of course, reduction in continuing erosion within the Mount Eldon Estates area within the county, as well as some issues, much less, but some issues within Lockett Ranches within the county as well. So tremendous benefits to this effort and tremendous partnership with the Forest Service. And this is a reimbursement grant. We'll be reimbursed. We'll submit our invoices and so forth on a monthly basis and be reimbursed. And there is no match. So unless costs exceed that amount, then there should not be an impact to the flood control district budget for this. And that's tremendous. This is a level of support that, we just truly appreciate. So with that, I wanted to give Matt Mcgrath, our Flagstaff Ranger, an opportunity to make a few comments as well. Matt has just been a tremendous partner from day one since the fire in supporting our efforts and supporting the community. Wanted to give him a couple of minutes just to make a few comments as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Lucinda, and thank you very much, supervisors, for having me here today. I want to start by, Lucinda talked about our partnership, but also acknowledge the incredibly strong partnership we have with the county. On behalf of the Forest Supervisor, Laura Jo West, and myself, I can't tell you how much we value our great relationship with the county. The fire and the flooding, traumatic events like that oftentimes split partners apart in my experience. And if anything, these experiences have brought us closer together, and we're working better together and more closely together, I think, than we have been, at least since I've been here. And in addition to this flood mitigation work, we're also working with Cinda and Jay Smith and forest restoration folks on additional work we can do in other areas so that we don't have this fire and flooding problem in the future. On the note of the partnership and the funding, when the chief came out, the chief of the Forest Service came out in November for that presentation that Lucinda did a great job organizing. The chief wasn't coming intending to say, here's $3.5 million. I would have heard, if that was the plan, I probably would have heard a little whisper or something like that. It was, he's coming out to see things. He wants to understand what's going on. And he was so impressed, I think, with the relationship and the partnership that we have with the county that he knew that this was a good investment. And I don't think he oftentimes in a matter of 20 minutes or half hour says, hey, I'm gonna spend $3.5 million on this thing that I just heard about. But he did. And I think that's a reflection on how wonderfully we work together. So just wanted to thank you again for the opportunity to be here. And if you have any questions for me, one thing I will mention, this is the first piece. This agreement is the first piece, and it enables us to get the money to the county. At the forest, we're working on the environmental analysis component of this, which starting in August at the Flood Mitigation Summit that the county organized, I went back to my folks and said, we don't know what this is going to look like yet, but this is going to be our number one priority over the winter. And that has been true as we work through this. And now we've been working really closely with Lucinda and the folks from Natural Channel Design as they develop their proposed action. Just to give you an update, we'll be going out scoping, which is our public comment period, in about a week. And that'll be a 30-day comment period in which folks will be able to let us know what they think of this proposal. And so we're looking forward to having a good conversation with the community. And I know the county has really been leading a lot of those discussions already. So we'll have that 30-day period. And then we have some other environmental things we need to look at, but we're anticipating having this done by early May. My deputy district ranger, Nick Musto, is spearheading this effort. Every day that I talk to him, I say, hey, can you shave another day off of that? Can you get it done a day sooner? Can you get it done a day sooner? Initially, I think he was talking about June. Now it's early to mid-May, and there's the potential that we'll be able to speed that up a little bit more. But just know that anything that we can do to make this work happen more quickly, we will do. So thank you very much for your time this morning. I very much appreciate it. Thanks, Lucinda.
Great. Thank you, Matt. And again, the partnership is really strong. And I want to recognize and thank both Supervisors Horstman and Vasquez for their support through this process and continuing to communicate not only with the agencies, but also with our congressional delegation that has been extremely supportive of this effort. And so with that, I'll go ahead and ask if there's any questions that any of the board members have. Thank you.
All right, questions? And if not, go ahead, Supervisor Horst.
And it's
Comments?
more of a comment, if I may, Chair, rather
Please.
than question, although I'm sure questions will be coming forward from our constituents in these areas as we move forward. But I just really think it's important to really acknowledge the work in the partnership. Good neighbors, really exemplifying what the whole concept about good neighbors mean. The county staff, Lucinda, you and your staff, and Matt, you and Laura Jo, and the Forest Service, working together through the emergency, the flooding events itself, the aftermath, and now, working for this mitigation is so important. And as we know, and as Supervisor Vasquez and myself, and I think the other supervisors who also toured the area where the flood occurred, understand the absolute importance of doing this sediment reduction measures. And we toured the Schultz area. We looked at the alluvial fan and the work that was done in Schultz to alleviate some of the flood risks, certainly in assist flood mitigation. And being able to do that within this area is absolutely critical so that the city of Flagstaff, in conjunction with the county, can work on further flood mitigation in the Sunnyside area and Supervisor Vasquez's district, where so many people were just their homes and their property were decimated. So this is absolutely what good neighbors are supposed to do. And it's truly what we're supposed to do to help the residents of our community. And I want to also thank all of the members of the Board of Supervisors that have been so supportive of this project, have been supportive of the county staff, the Forest Service, and of Supervisor Vasquez and myself, going forward and working in conjunction with these flood mitigation and watershed restoration projects. So I'm so excited to move forward, and I'm even more excited, Matt, to hear you say that we're hoping to get this done in early May. I know residents have been contacting Supervisor Vasquez and myself. They're concerned about the upcoming monsoon season and concerned about the potential, we hope not a repeat of what happened this last monsoon. So I just thank you so much. Matt, you and Laura Jo just you just could not have made yourself more available, have been more helpful, have provided so much information and so much expertise. And Lucinda, I don't know what to say for you and your staff. You guys are superstars. I mean, it's just been incredible what's been able to get done and in such a short period of time. So, great thanks. And with great gratitude, I'm so pleased to see this coming before the board. So thank you all.
All right. Others, I'll go to Supervisor Vasquez. I would imagine, it's definitely potential impact to your area. Go ahead, Supervisor Vasquez.
I
Or
want to.
Director.
I just wanted to open up by saying thank you to the Forest Service for moving this forward. This project is essential for any of the other projects to happen. This is kind of like the prerequisite for those other projects in the city to be able to happen. And so we're just really grateful. I mean, when you reflect and you think about Schultz Fire and how long it took to get funding for those mitigation efforts, and then you compare that to now, it's amazing that we're in this point 6 months past the flooding, and it looks like we'll be able to meet our goal of having those mitigation efforts in before the next monsoon. So I'm just really grateful to the Forest Service, Matt, to you and your staff, and then to our public, our flood control district staff, to Lucinda and all her staff, and all the folks that have been working hard on this to make this happen as quickly as it has. And so, the community is grateful. There's still a lot of people that are hurting and are afraid of what can come next. And so these efforts are really important to assure our community that we're making the right efforts to prepare ourselves for any future potential flooding. And the efforts on forest will take that sediment, reduce that sediment so that the stormwater collection in the city of Flagstaff can actually handle the water, and we don't get these overflows as we had this last summer. So again, I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate everybody on the team who's made this happen.
All right, others from the board. It looks like Vice Chair Fowler, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. And you got to be creative to be able to come up with things like this, huh? So that's really good. I'm really happy that we were able to meet with the chief in Salt Lake, and then this is the result that's come through. And really, and the only way that this can happen, like you said, Matt, was to be able to already be working together and have that strong partnership. So we just really appreciate that partnership, and that's been developed through the years as we've really had. I know that Lucinda and her team has really learned through the process, and I'm sure your team as well, how to address these issues. We've been the highlight of the flood in several cases throughout the country. So thanks so much. It's really good to be the educators. That's what you've become, is the educators out into the other communities, how to work together and be able to address these very complex jurisdictional issues that come about. So thanks so much. I'm excited to hear the presentation.
All right. And let me turn to board directors in this case, Director Baguette.
Just want to say thank you, and I don't want to reiterate what everybody's already said, but I think a lot of it has to do with working together, and a lot of prevention efforts needs to be carried through, and that, just being there for one another, as departments, program staff, and the board and others that have really worked on these projects. So I'm just so thankful that we do have people that are there that are readily, and they are educated in certain ways and areas that they know what to do and get things together, the projects together, and move forward with it. So just want to say thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Director Baguette. And yeah, I'll put my 2 cents in, and most of it's been said. Really unique situation. This doesn't come often, and first and foremost, just noting to our local ranger, to Matt, to Laura Jo West, the Coconino. It really comes with dynamic individuals, understanding the system, responding to it, and understanding the community as well as the resource on what we're doing. You've done an excellent job. You're a wonderful partner. We really appreciate it. Always have had good relationships, but they just keep getting better. And so, and this is again a unique circumstance. I'll put one out there a little bit further as Director Baguette, or not Director Baguette, Director Horseman. I can't get your name straight when I use it, Director, but we really do need to speak to our to Congress and to the Senate. Congressman O'Halloran, even before this, the legislation that also helps make this work is the Good Neighbor Policy, which our staff, former supervisors, worked on going to Washington. And we have real champions out there that really push this and push the Good Neighbor Policy, and it's an additional tool in the toolbox of how can we do this and what can we do. But Senator Sinema, Senator Kelly supporting this so that it can move forward. Really appreciate from Senate and congressional side, and then swing back to it's already been said about our staff, but it's one of those gee whiz conversations on the van ride, Lucinda. Oh my gosh, we definitely need money here, and this is how much money we need. So I think you've done a great job. I think your staff, Jay, and everybody else have done a wonderful job. And then having all the right board members up there, thank you, Patrice. Thank you, Geronimo. Thank you, Lena, up in in Congress when we've been pushing hard for these, and Judy putting your 2 cents in. It really makes a big difference when we're all working together and making this happen. So that's if we approve this settlement. So and just one last note is
meeting adjourned.
Yeah, so one reason we're having this special meeting is the chief of the Forest Service said, we're under the gun to really get things done. He said, you need to get it done. We said we would. The money's coming through. Having this agreement lined up and moving right now helps us expedite it. And in the long term, it really helps for the sake of all those people that we have potential flooding that can impact. So it's taking care of community. So a lot of brevity associated with what we have, but we actually have an action before us. And what I'll do, I'd like to turn to it's most of the implementations in District 1, but it's going to affect District 2. I would suggest that we go with the motion with District 1 and a second from District 2 if they care to make those motions. Yeah, go ahead, Supervisor or Director Horstman.
Yes, thank you. And of course, it's my great pleasure to make the motion to approve the Good Neighbor Agreement with U.S. Forest Service, which grants to the Flood Control District the funding of $3.494 million in some sense, and approval to construct a set of watershed restoration projects on Forest Service land below the Museum Fire Burn Scar, and authorizing the Flood Control District Administrator, Lucinda Andriani, to sign the agreement. There is no match required of the Flood Control District. However, the district will be required to cover any costs in excess of the committed amount. That's my motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I have a motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, and just double checking if we could pause here. Let's get the clarity to the figure on that.
Yes, I'm sorry. I looked up and I missed the last part. It's $3,494,180 is the correct amount.
That's what you heard, Geronimo?
That's what I heard. That's what I second.
All right. Fantastic. With that, I'll go ahead and call for the question. All in favor of the motion, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously. This is really a unique day. So congratulations to everybody that put into this good work. Go ahead. In this case, yeah, we're still directors.
I do the same thing. It's hard to keep it all straight. But yes, thanks, Chair Director Matt Ryan. I would really like to, if we can, to send. I know we've extended our many thanks. We are extending our many thanks right here in this open meeting. But I would really like to get a letter, Chair, if you'd be willing to sign on behalf of the board, to the Forest Service Chief, Randy Moore, who in fact made this commitment. And when he wasn't planning to do so, to us here in Coconino County and to our residents here in Coconino County, I think we should let him know this has been passed and how much we appreciate him starting the ball rolling. So we really appreciate that. And Chair Ryan, if you'd be willing to sign such a letter, I'd really appreciate that. And I'm assuming under other board members, other directors would as well.
Are we good with that? Everybody okay with the letters going out? I would suggest also that we get, for the sake of Senate and Congress, that we send letters along the line. Here's the next step in the process. Keep them abreast, keep them on top of this issue as well. But we definitely appreciate their support. Is that okay? I'm seeing, you okay with that? Lena, Harama, Judy? Yeah.
Yes, I think it's really important to keep that communication open and just show our appreciation. I think that would be very good. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Just real quickly, I think what's also should be noted, while we're not making a full presentation of all the specifics, the scope of work in the packet is contained on page 18 through 2 or 3 pages. It's a very good scope of work. It's actually a scope of work I can actually understand. And pictures always help. So Matt, and to your team and to Lucinda, really, it's a very good scope of work that shows the types of work and exactly, the tasks involved, as well as the time frame and the cost. And so again, I would call the public's attention to the scope of work for more information.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we have time for just a summary presentation on this? I know we have it in our packet, but just to go over, I don't know if Lucinda or Matt are ready to provide that.
It's helpful for edification for the public as well. So just a summary format would be good. I was going to tease and say, no, I want all the hydrologic formulas in there, so we can look at those as well. So yeah.
So certainly can provide some highlights. We've talked about the relationship and really that relationship was forged to a significant degree, when we faced the Schultz flooding, and the measures that are proposed for the museum on forest and also on private property as well. The funding through NRCS on private property as well are very, very similar to what you have seen out in the Schultz area. The larger, wider areas where the water has the opportunity to spread out and slow down. Right now, what's happening is because of the volume of the water and the erosion, and they're actually eroding through. So what physically will happen is those eroded channels will be in effect filled in. The area will be opened up. The timber that's removed in that process to reshape that fan, that alluvial fan, that wide, flatter area, that's actually engineered. They determine exactly the dimensions of that alluvial fan, so they understand exactly how much sediment they can capture there. And it'll be then graded, and then every 50 to 75 feet, they'll take logs, that will come off of this area, and they'll place the logs perpendicular to the flow of water. As the water comes down, to prevent that eroding again, it will, if it erodes in, the logs aren't very deep in the ground. Typically, they're probably about 6 inches deep. If it starts to rill, or what they call rilling or erode, the water will hit those logs and then spread back out again. And that's that concept, is that you continue to spread the water back out, so it's not being concentrated into one location and then creating erosion. And so we're not only on these fans are we slowing the production of sediment, but we're also capturing sediment coming from above. Many of the really steep slopes above that burned, there's very little that can be done there to arrest that erosion. And frankly, in this area, much more so than we saw even in Schultz, we're getting a lot of what's called hillside erosion, even more so than channel erosion up above. So there's a lot of sediment potential that will continue over many, many years. And this is a natural process that would take place. If you go out and look at a burn from 75 years ago, you will see that if you look below the burn, for example, the radio fire, if you look below and you look at the channels, this is what's happening. The fans are normally, it's called a grading. They're capturing this sediment and they will return to a more normal state over time, but that could take 75, 100 years. We're accelerating that by stabilizing these fans cells and the proper geometry of that fan. That's a big component of the work that will be done and a very significant and frankly the most important component. In addition to that, there are channels that are eroding, that are producing, that are in areas that are steeper sloped and aren't in a fan area where the water could slow down. But there's and then we put the rock vein weirs. You've seen photographs of these. We did a prior project on forest where we install these, and both the fan there that we rehabbed has collected over 6 feet of sediment already in one cycle. So one's monsoon season. And then these grade control features, we also installed those in the Mount Eldon Estates area through the NRCS exigency project, very successful in reducing down the erosion. And that area, the erosion was literally threatening the foundations of homes. And so would have threatened, it was, would have over us, the amount of flooding we had this summer would have threatened those homes. And basically what that does is it kind of slows down the water, allows the water to come through that channel in a manner that doesn't create erosion. It's called grade control. And you just have a series of these rock vein weirs, these rock weirs that slow the water down and allow it to drop in a more, I'll say, a more controlled fashion. So less erosion. So it's a combination of both of those measures that all, the vast majority of the materials we used will come from the forest itself. We may need to haul in a little bit of rock from an outside source, but likely most of the materials will come from on forest. The entire area will be mulched and reseeded with a seed mix that's approved by the Forest Service. And as those of you that have been out and seen, and I think most of you have seen the measures out in Schultz, the fans there have recovered beautifully. They're beautiful open areas. They're very important to supporting wildlife in the area. They're feeding areas for wildlife, all kinds of wildlife, not just elk and deer like you might think, but frankly, a lot of raptors. The hawks and owls and stuff love these areas because it's more open and they can feed and hunt. So this is really why we call this a watershed restoration, because we're advancing that natural process that would take place, but it would take a long time. We're talking the change in geology and geometrics of the floodplain. So that's really, we will be capturing this. We've talked about doing an upfront video talking about why we're doing this and working together on that. And then we will be documenting the work as we go along. We have also the Arizona Geological Survey organization and the university, which is housed at the University of Arizona. They're pursuing a grant to monitor the work that's being done on forest, to determine, to see, and frankly, one of the things we've been good about documenting the sediment capture. We've less documented the reduction in flood flows, which certainly we saw in Schultz. We'll see less so of that in the museum area because the areas are more constricted and there's fewer, the breadth of the alluvial fans there is less overall. But they're going to work with us to document that as well this time so that information can be shared with other areas. We are, I've done a lot of communication with other areas that have experienced wildfires and, have contributed to them also in implementing these types of measures. Colorado, over on the Gila, other areas. So, I want to continue to be able to share that information and build the science around these kinds of efforts. But as Matt noted, the other key piece to this, and we'll be back to talk with you on February 1st, it is forest restoration. That is where we need, to continue to focus so that we don't continue to have to sink millions and millions of dollars into these types of mitigation and response efforts for flooding, and that we can invest in our healthy forests, which is, of course, key to our economy. We know we have a recreation economy in our area, and we need healthy forests for the environment, for carbon sequestration, and it will contribute to all of those things. So we'll be back to talk with you on the 1st about a plan there, another very exciting partnership with the Forest Service and the Coconino and Kaibab Forest. So hopefully that answers some questions. If there's other questions, thank you, Steve, for pointing out there's some good graphics and information within the packet, and certainly we're happy to sit down with any of the board members that may have more and take you out to see. Once we start construction, we'll do a tour.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do a tour out there when we get the weather to do that. So, Mr. Chair, back to you. You have a question from Supervisor Director Horstman?
Oh, I do. She's already used her time. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Well, this is about as important of the use of time as we can have for many of our residents here on in the flood area. So, and thank you for the overview, and the graphics are great. And County Manager was 100% correct when he said we should use this. So I did see you sent a letter out to the Paradise Road area property owners. And what I would like to do, unless it's already been done, Lucinda, is to go ahead and send a letter to the HOA in Mount Eldon Estates. As you know, they've been wanting to have a meeting on this, and then include these graphics, because I think this is what they're really looking for in terms of information. Unless your office has already done that, we'd like to do that.
I think a separate communication to Mount Eldon, the project that was described in the Paradise letter is separate from this work.
Right.
And so I think a separate communication. I know we're in the process of setting up a virtual meeting with the community, and we would be sharing these graphics, and certainly they're pretty familiar because they've seen some of this work already, both above the forest, in the forest above them that we did back in 2020, as well as the work we've done right in their neighborhood. So it's pretty similar type of work, but we're looking forward to that opportunity to meet with them.
Yeah, and we'll do that and try to send these graphics out, because I think these would be very helpful and answer some of their questions, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more for the meeting. So thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I'd like to turn to Matt did you want to add anything to the process? I'm putting you on the spot, Matt, but you guys are so involved in so much of this. So if you want to add anything.
No, thank you, Director Ryan. I think I'm getting the hang of this. No, Lucinda did an outstanding job explaining it, and it can get into these details in a much more understandable way than I can when I start talking about them. So no, I think she captured everything. Thank you very much.
I understand that. All right. Any further questions or comments on this? We've already taken action to approve this, and so this will go ahead and proceed. I want to thank everybody that came for the sake of this. We're going to continue into a work session discussion after this, but I would suggest I need to take 5 minutes, if you guys don't mind, if we could take 5. I've been hopping meeting to meeting, and I need to take a break for half a second here. So, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, let's see. How are we doing here? Let's see. I'm providing this baby. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Okay. Let's just do a quick check-in. I see Patrice, I see Geronimo. Need to check and see. Steve, you have you.
Yep.
And then okay, good. There's Lena. Yep. All right. And Judy, are you out there, Judy? Let's give Judy a minute here. Oh, let's see. There we go. Oh, cool. Okay. Hey, Judy, we're checking to see if you're out there. Okay. Oh, that's what I want to do. Okay. There's Judy. Okay. We have the full board here. Actually, this day has come. Long time ago. We've been so busy with so many things. I think we've been doing sensational stuff all throughout the year. But part of the discussion, more so as we've gotten a new board together, the desire is, can we write out some of our operations, set up a functional way that it's in writing, how we work with each other, collegial relationship, and yet process. We're all in formal positions for what we need to do. How can we make things work? And so there's been a desire for
Chair Ryan.
yeah.
Chair Ryan, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think you guys need to resolve back as the Board of Supervisors.
Oh gosh, good.
Thank
That's
you.
God, Lindsay, you're doing your job. You're doing great. Thank you. I need a motion to resolve as the
A motion that we move back to the Board of Supervisors.
I have a motion by Director Vasquez. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Fowler. All in favor of the motion, vote aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. And so anyway, Lindsay and Steve, brought boilerplate plate to us before, ideas that we saw through Sonoma County, provided an opportunity to send it out to the board if you had comments. We also have a chance that we can go ahead and work through this and see, does this work? And, if not, let's see what we can do. What do we do? How do we change it? That kind of thing. What I would suggest, for format is, and we've done this before with, I know Patrice watched us do it with the last board, but say community development for our ordinances. Sometimes we do line by line. Sometimes we just skipped over a whole chapter if everybody's good, but it gives us a chance to roll through it, see if we want to pause, take a read of it, talk about it. We don't have to do it all today, or we could get it all done today. It's, let's see how we go with it. With that, I would suggest, have Steve be, the reader of, checking in with us. I'll step back with everybody else and roll along. Are we good with that format? I'm seeing some, go ahead, Patrice.
Well, one way just to get it through and be able to move through it rather quickly, hopefully, and still have an appropriate discussion on it is I'm not sure that we need to have this read to us, which I'm sure the county manager will be happy to hear. But if we just kind of go through, it's broken by rule. So why don't we just see if, go by rule and see if there's any input from the board on the rules. And if there is, we can have a discussion rule by rule. And since we all have it before us, and I did provide a red line version because I did go through with great detail actually, and made some recommendations that people may say that's great or that's horrible. And now is the time for us to discuss it. So just go rule by rule would be my recommendation.
Does that sound good? Anybody opposed to that idea? No, that sounds good. Yeah, now, just a sidebar on this. I did read it. I read just about everything in it. I was hoping to see Steve's attempt at mimicking the clerk of the legislature and reading every single piece associated with it. But I've teased Patrice back and forth on this one. She was telling me about redlining. Said, these are tough ones. This isn't my area of excitement, but these are things that she enjoys doing. So we all have our own special traits that we bring forward with that. But I'll go ahead and kick it over to Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'll share my screen and we can go from there. And as I said, and as you've indicated, we'll walk through each area. So let me go ahead and share my screen to make sure you can see what I'm seeing. And can you see what I can see? Okay. So we'll do it, in this case, we'll do purpose first. You can see the stated information and the addition of the vice chair, the last line, any conversation or discussion on this item? I don't see any hands raised. Next, general applicability of rules. You'll see the language related there. I'll call your attention to the last line in that where we do have the addition where there may be a conflict between these rules of procedure and Arizona law. Of course, Arizona law will prevail. And so that will be followed. And that's a given just based on legal authorities. Next, under the definitions, we have an additional definition, but you'll see the definition for board member, supervisor, chair, vice, etc. And then we've also included county administration referring to the deputy county managers and the county manager executive team. Is there any conversation or any comment on that? See, go ahead. Okay. Beyond that, the next paragraph, looking at authority and responsibilities. The first line, as you can see there, and then we do have an addition on the second line or the second sentence, primarily serves as, and then we addition of the executive as well as the legislative body of county government, which sets policy, passes ordinances, sets the tax rate, adopts the annual budget of the county, and fulfills responsibilities and duties outlined in Arizona law. And you can see the items that have been struck through. Any conversation or comment on that? Seeing none, we'll go to the next part of it, and it continues with the duties. Also, you'll see strike through with no operational control resides with individual supervisors. And then, of course, the board authority is collective versus individual. And with the addition, and leadership is exercised through majority vote at a duly called board meeting. Beyond that, in summary, you see the next sentence, and then strike through leadership responsibility can easily be confused and controversial. That has been struck. And then beyond that, the manager takes operational leadership. We've added executive and struck political from the line that begins the board takes. And then one other item, Appendix A for reference. Is there any comments with regards to the authority and responsibilities of the board? And Lindsay, if you can help me track hands raised and all, because it is difficult to see the full screen and share at the same time. So that would be great.
Yes, I can. Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to general authority. Rule number 3, the Board of Supervisors, and I'm not going to read it all, but you can see as it's stated there, the additional language, individual board members have no authority except as may be designated to them through a majority vote of the board. Any discussion or comment on that? Hearing none or seeing none, on to the next rule, Rule 4, fiscal authority. Again, no additions here, no changes, mostly citations of law and references. Any comment on Rule 4? On to 5, authority as to county officers listed in ARS, again, references to law, statute, etc. So there's been no change or modifications here. Is there any questions or comments? Okay. Rule 6, plans, no changes, referenced in Rule 6 under plans. Rule 7, ordinances and resolutions, again, no changes from the original language, definition of ordinances, etc. So again, fairly informative information here. Okay. Rule 8, oath of office, again, how that is administered. Rule 9, misconduct in office by a county supervisor. No changes. Is there any comment on Rule 8 or 9? Okay, on to 10, non-feasance in public office, again, referencing ARS. Nothing there. Misuse of public funds, again, reference to law. And of course, the admonition in terms of what all of us should not do. Okay, on to Rule 12. Well, a little bit on Rule 11 here. Rule 12, money illegally paid. Again, another reference to statute. No changes there. Rule 13, use of county resources to influence elections. Again, admonition from ARS as well as Attorney General opinions. No change. Rule 14, again, asking receiving of an illegal gratuity or reward. No changes there. Rule 15, sale of appointment. None. Rule 16, pecuniary interest of a supervisor. That should be very clear. No changes there. 17, effect of personal interest of county officer. No change there. 18, prohibition against acquisition of certain interest by public officers. There were no changes to the original here. 19, conflict of interest. Addition, you can see the additional language as more clearly set forth in Arizona conflict of interest laws, which as board members, you are all required to follow.
Just,
and file in your annual statements on. So Mr. Chair, back to you.
yeah, I'm using the opportunity a moment to remind everybody, we try and get in a fiscal year update associated with that we align with the beginning of the calendar year. So heads up, Lindsay was going to reach out to you, but
Yeah, so conflict of interest statements are provided by the clerk of the board to you all. On to the next page, some additional language on conflict of interest, again, referencing statute, Attorney General opinion, and additional, just a reference to Appendix B, and we'll get to that shortly. Any comments other than what we just said on Rule 19, conflict of interest? Hearing or seeing none. On to 20. Common law principles, the additional language here, appearance of impropriety, and the definition, reference to Attorney General. One other additional, just additional language, additional word in terms of bias can be a further legal concern. So again, just to clean up the language there. Rule 21, regular meetings and annual calendar. You can see that we've set that out as at the process and the schedule we currently follow. The second paragraph, additional reference to per Arizona law. And then the last sentence was struck. It is not statutorily required to make a motion or take an action to remove an item from the agenda. Any comment or question there? Okay, next paragraph related to discussion work session items. And you can just see here reserved for items, etc. Pretty much following the practice that we've followed in the past. Hearing none. On to the next. At times it may be necessary to clarify the board's action. If a board member believes it is necessary to clarify an action taken by the board, additional language, it is properly noticed on the agenda for a vote, then the board member may make a motion to clarify. Again, the additional language was making sure that it is properly noticed in the agenda to even discuss that. And then the last sentence, another board member may second the motion, just some clarification there. At that point, the board shall vote on the clarifying motion. Comments, questions? Hearing or seeing none. On to the next. More language on that topic. We have struck. At other times, it may be necessary to call the question. This should be a last resort. So that has been suggested to be struck to clarify the paragraph better. And then you can see the other change there, which is minor. And then just finally, the annual calendar of meetings shall be adopted, and that's what the board did just this week, I believe. It was an agenda item. Okay, Rule 22, special meetings, budget hearings, workshops, and planning meetings. There have been no changes. Again, reference to the clerk's role, the 24-hour notice for open meeting law, etc. Budget hearings, workshops, and study sessions and planning meetings may be called by the chair or a majority of the board at times. Again, just referencing how that takes place. On to the next item, emergency meetings can be, of course, as you see here, may be called by the chair or majority of the board. And again, it just clarifies what we've done. And then, of course, having to reference back to ARS with regard to open meeting law. Okay, executive sessions, Rule 24. The sentence speaks for itself. Next paragraph, prior to holding any exec session, the chair shall announce. No changes to that sentence. The next sentence, during the exec session, the board may consider only those items on the agenda. Additional language, the board may invite into its executive session those that have a legitimate purpose to be present in the executive session. And that's followed. When we ask, once the session has been called or we're in exec session, making sure that those that need to be there are there and other individuals are not there that don't need to be there. Additional language at the end, legal action involving final vote or decision shall not be taken. Of course, in executive session, we cannot do that. However, as may be allowed by open meeting law, the board may instruct its attorneys. And you can see the reference here.
you got a typo in there. Open meeting, not opening.
Opening, thank you. Okay. Next paragraph, no changes there. We would We've added language. Language has been suggested to be added. If officer, appointee, or employee elect to proceed with this discussion in open meeting, in open session, the board may still elect to go into executive session for advice from legal counsel and referencing the statute. Okay, next item, Rule 25. I'm going to see if I can, well, let me start here and then we'll go. So selection of the chair and vice chair pursuant to ARS 11-216, the board shall elect a chair who, in addition to other duties, shall sign all orders and warrants of the board. Although there is not a statute that requires the election of the chair, vice chair, the board, additional language may proceed to elect a vice chair who may fulfill the duties of chair in the chair's absence. I'm going to stop. Any questions or comments here? Okay, going on. Arizona law sets no defined term limit for the chair position. Additional language, the chair and vice chair term may vary per the vote of the board. Traditionally, the term of the chair and vice chair have run for approximately 10 months.
You know, I would suggest we even strike that add on the 10-month component and just stop at that point.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So,
Get rid of the traditionally the term of the chair and vice chair runs approximately. Get rid of that and strike that one out.
Lena, you popped up. Any comments from you, Lena? If I can.
No, I agree. I think that should be taken out because we just don't know, like with this term here, Matt's been in that position, and with the new supervisors, we just couldn't switch over.
But do you want to vote? Oh, we can't. We just wrote a rule and the law says we can't vote now on it. But
Okay.
I vote for.
throw me on the lifeboat. Huh?
There could be a military coup in the works here, Chair Ryan. Be careful.
Be
Yeah.
careful, Matt.
Yes, be careful with
That's
that.
right. Mm.
Okay, and then I just, you
Basically,
can also. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Patrice. I'm listening.
Basically, this gives us more complete control as a board to decide how we want the term. And, basically the chair and vice chair are elected on a regular basis, whether that be, monthly, yearly, whatever. It just gives us complete authority, and we can discuss that when we're looking to change the chair and the vice chair position. So it just gives maximum flexibility to the board.
Okay. And you can see the language that has been struck. We went into a little bit more detail about how it's divided and et cetera. And so that has been struck again, providing maximum flexibility to the board in that area. So any discussion on what's been struck? I don't see anything. And then the last sentence, the chair and the vice chair shall serve until the election of their successors, which again speaks to the flexibility. Rule 26, conduct and removal of chair. The board chair will conduct business on behalf of the entire board in the county in a professional manner. Additional language and proceed consistent with the authority vested in chair and vice chair by the board, and in reference to see Appendix A. Professional standards has been added and struck. We have struck as outlined consistent with governance standard Appendix A, and you can see the rest. The board chair should do the best of their ability. I think we're gonna have to clarify some language here, but you can see the changes here. Any conversation on this part? Okay.
Hang on, slow down. Let me just read it quick again. It's been a half a week or so.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's written well. Mm-hmm.
All right. Next item, Rule 27, responsibilities of the chair, vice chair. The chair shall serve as presiding officer of the board, set the agenda with the county manager. With the county manager has been added wording on this sentence. Next part, presided meetings, additional language, request legal guidance on procedure. We have struck rule on questions of procedure, and you can see the substitute language there. Additional language with board approval, appoint members to committees and special assignments, execute official board records and documents presented by the manager, et cetera, signing contracts and documents, and then with additional language with board approval, make reports and recommendation on board's behalf. The chair is authorized to send legislative and other communication consistent with the board's legislative agenda. And again, the chair shall have legal authority as referenced in ARS. So I'll just stop here. Any conversation or questions on the responsibilities of the chair? Okay. Next paragraph, with direction, this is additional language, with direction of the board or to further the decisions of the board. The chair's responsibility may also include working with county staff and leading and coordinating efforts of the board, such as the recruitment of a county manager, filling the vacancy of a supervisor, redistricting, working with staff regarding the board meeting agendas and schedule, attending internal employee recognition ceremonies, new employee orientations, agenda review meetings, as well as regular one-on-one meetings with the county manager and elected county officers, and attending events and meetings on behalf of the board. And then additional language where appropriate, the chair may seek assistance from other supervisors to attend meetings and events on behalf of the county. Additional language, if the meeting and or events involve another supervisor's district, the chair shall notify that supervisor, and if the chair cannot attend, will ask that supervisor to attend on the chair's behalf. Comments or questions? Okay. Next line, no changes there. Next line, media requests may be requested of individual supervisors. Additional language where appropriate or when it involves the whole county, the request will be sent to the public affairs director or designee, the county manager, and the chair of the board of supervisors. If a quote or interview is being sought from the board, the chair shall provide statements on behalf of the board. If it is a subject that may be district specific or in relation to a supervisor's specific effort, then the chair will pass the media request to the supervisor.
You know, I would pause on this one and suggest the idea of putting specific effort, then the chair, when appropriate, will pass the media request to that supervisor. And I bring that up is it may be in that district, but it might have a broader decision associated with it or broader implications.
And I agree with that.
Okay. So Lena's in concurrence. Lena, Patrice, you're nodding your head in that direction.
Yes.
Okay.
Same here.
Thank you, Judy. Geronimo, you're good on that. Lindsay, did you capture the essence of that?
I sure did. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, the next up, excuse me, the chair shall use her leadership to resolve issues between supervisors. And you see the language that's been struck. Comments or questions on the sentence? Okay. In the absence, excuse me, Supervisor Fowler, did you want to make a comment?
Do we need to say shall?
You know, actually, that one I would say I wouldn't agree with. Oh, you're asking if we should say shall. Is that what you're asking?
Mm-hmm. That was a question.
Oh, that's that's a fair question. And I was going to say by putting shall in there, I would pause. His leadership to resolve the issues between. So we're, the board chair usually tries to attempt to do that, and usually, we're hoping for a shall, but it doesn't always reach that point. There are times that we just need to bring it to the board, and so shall attempt to use his or, it's loose when you say attempt, but
how about where appropriate?
Yeah,
The chair,
yeah.
where appropriate, will use his, her leadership.
Mhm. You know, and we've had it in the past. There are times that, you know, maybe an issue bubbles up that just can't be resolved. And it's like, okay, you know, the chair attempted to do that, and that's been the, you know, it's not been the spoken or written component, but that's kind of been the process. They try as best they can. If they can't, let's bring it to the board. You know, you try and work with the manager if you can on it. Manager can't always be brought into all those discussions, though. So it's
Thank
yeah.
Supervisor Vasquez, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that to me, the shall was a little softer way of saying that the chair should use their leadership to help resolve any kind of issues that might be happening among supervisors. And I like that better than the previous language that said conflict, because it's not always conflict. Sometimes it's just schedule problems, or sometimes there's just other things that make things linger. And so I liked the shall, because I thought it was a way of saying that the chair should, as chair, should step in and help, you know, their leadership should help resolve those issues. So, and I don't know what's the better way to say it, but that's kind of why shall was kind of okay by me.
The suggestion that was made is where appropriate before that.
Yeah, and that might be the way to do it.
So shall where appropriate.
You guys can massage that.
I think we got
And
that.
that would allow just bringing it straight to the board. If it's more appropriate to bring it straight to the board, we do that. But I agree with what Supervisor Vasquez said. I mean, that's really one of the roles of the chair, to really try to resolve issues if possible. So.
Okay. Next paragraph. In the absence or unavailability, you can just see we've made some just cleanup changes here. Nothing substantive. Okay, on to Rule 28, meeting notice and agenda. Again, referencing open meeting law, 24-hour notice, etc. Last sentence, the chair and the county manager shall prepare the agenda and, where appropriate, seek input from the board as a whole. And you can see where we have struck control the agenda, which seems a little bit much, and then may seek. No, really, the chair's not going to let it go too. It's like the committee chair holding the bill.
Yeah.
So in this case, any comment on the agenda? Okay. Addendum, supplemental agenda items, no change here. You know, of course, we would distribute all of those addendums, etc., as we normally would. All right, Rule 30, use of agenda review planning meetings. All departments shall use agenda review meetings as hosted by the county manager to request discussion items placed on the board's agenda for consideration. Departments may also work with the deputy county manager overseeing their department to bring a discussion item on the board's agenda. Okay, the chair attends agenda review meetings. We have struck or may have the vice chair, or if unable, designate the vice chair to attend. And so I'm going to stop and see, because I know there's been interest on the part of the board. And if I could add, Mr. Chair, a comment on this, that's one of the reasons we've also added the planning towards the end of each agenda item, going over the planning calendar with the board, so that we have the opportunity for the full board to participate in the identification, or at least placing items on the agenda.
So I, just commenting on that, associated with it, we still need to refine that process itself, not the verbiage that you have here. It's assuring that the board has a chance to have discussion associated with the planning calendar. Is not an absolute component of the chair, which is so important. The more we talk it out in terms of calendars, who can do what, and all that kind of thing, it really helps.
Yeah, I really think, and I really appreciate the county manager doing that. I really appreciate having input from the whole board on the planning process. It makes it a lot easier. So, and all that does is kind of clean up language to say that in the absence of the chair attending the agenda review that he may designate the vice chair to attend that agenda review.
And it could be other board members if the vice chair is not available.
Okay. We need to add that, or can that just be an understanding that if the chair is not available, if the vice chair is not available, it would be.
You know, the truth is that there's nothing in here as
That's
long as he doesn't create a quorum, right? For another board member to be in attendance, as long as it doesn't create a quorum on the board. There's probably less reason for another board member to be in attendance now that we're doing the agenda planning as a part of our board meetings.
Okay, thank you. Lena, your comments?
Well, it's never been in writing before, and we really haven't had issues with it, but I think that if we're putting things in writing, maybe just say that he could designate others to join in. And we need to prevent a quorum. That's the main thing, is that we don't all show up at the same time.
How about if we put in, and in the absence of the vice chair, the chair shall designate another supervisor. You know, it captures the, you know, desired intent. We want to make sure that we have a supervisor there. They know they're going to do the, you know, the agenda component. The others are absent. They can't do it.
Okay, we'll make that change. Rule 31, department, agency agenda responsibilities. And again, no change there, just a reference to Appendix C. Rule 32, review and filing of agenda items, no change there. Again, that's just the logging in or the submittal of agenda items. Rule 33, supplemental correspondence. Okay, agenda. So this is distribution of the material to the board. At board meeting, documents excluding handouts, etc., shall be kept to a minimum. And I want to reference this, go back to, and we were in a little bit of a unfortunate pattern of providing information to you the day of the meeting and saying we need a decision, which is completely unfair. And so we are disciplining ourselves to go back to making sure that the clerk, and I want to just give credit to Lindsay Daly for not coming back and saying, you know, she's been very patient with us, but she is now saying we've got to have items in. So we are doing better, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Hey, Lindsay, is that right? Have you cracked the whip, Lindsay?
She's relentless.
Good.
I'm flexible. That's my problem.
Yeah. Anyway, we're doing better at that, but please let us know as we need to. It's a work in progress.
May Chair make a comment here? Because this is, I think it's important for all of the board to kind of be heard on. And thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, County Manager. Thank you, staff. We know how busy everybody is. We know we've just had one crisis after another, but it has been very difficult, quite frankly, as a supervisor to, you know, get up to speed. And if we don't get the materials ahead of time, you know, our public, our constituents expect us to know what we're talking about, know what we're voting for. So it's really important to get the documents and have time to review matters so we can make knowing decisions. And so thank you so much. We know it's a lot of work, and I really personally appreciate it. So I appreciate the time you're giving us. So thank you.
I have a different way of saying it. Saying I always had was, well, if we don't have background information, don't bring a decision like selecting colors up to the board. You get things like that to the dais, and it's a similar idea. You know, if we have the background, we make better decisions. So.
You bet. So, okay. Rule 34, county legal counsel. Again, that's just goes without saying. Everything we provide to you needs to be approved by legal as to form. No questions there.
Now Rose has a whip out there too. You know,
she's another relentless person.
Yep.
Conduct of business, you can just see order of business. The board shall conduct business in the order specified in the posted agenda. However, the board may modify the agenda, the order of the agenda during the meeting as determined and necessary by the chair. And sometimes we do need to have, just based on scheduling and presenters, the flexibility to reorder the agenda. Rule 36, board member notification of absence. Just notifying the clerk. Let's talk about this. So if any board member is unable to attend the meeting of the board, all reasonable efforts shall be made to notify the chair, county manager, and the clerk in writing as soon as possible to ensure sufficient members present. The question in writing.
No, I would suggest no on that. We've never done that, to be honest with you. It's always been a verbal,
Horrible.
you know.
Okay, so we'll make that change. 37, rule in action. 3 members of the board shall constitute the quorum sufficient to transact business. Again, in the absence of a quorum, the remaining members or the board or the clerk, that's a different one, may adjourn the meeting to another date and in time and in accordance with ARS. Not sure that our the clerk is I'm not, that may be a California holdover while we were kind of moving things over. I don't believe in our lifetime here the clerk has done that in a meeting.
Is that we can send it back to
No, it's
Lynn.
we can just eliminate that.
No, well, I mean, just double check, and then Rose double checks that. We do have 1 or 2 things that the clerk does. It's very seldom, very seldom. Just making sure we do that double check.
So we'll clarify that, but we'll correct that as we need to. Instead of bringing it back to the board, we'll just make the correction based on.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I apologize. I do not have a camera today. It's not working, which is to your benefit. Just wanted to note on that one, it may indicate that if inadvertently a board meeting is called and no members of the board can be there, it may indicate that it allows the chair to then change the meeting, adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Good point. So
thanks.
So a chance to tidy that up. And see what,
I think just keep it in as is. I mean, obviously, if they're remaining members, they're going to probably jump in anyway. But if for some reason none of us show up, which have the clerk do.
We'll have to find you. We'll send the deputies out to get you if you can. It's like DPS in the legislature. When not enough people show up, they go out and find legislators to make the quorum. We would not. We would not do that though. That's happened. That happened.
We could go to Wisconsin.
No, that's fine. Okay, Rule 38, matters not on the agenda emergency item. No action shall be taken. You can see the language here. We do work closely with legal on anything that may have any kind of a, if it's an emergency, we always check with the county attorney's office on certain things. But again, we follow this rule as is. So I'm going to hold off because I think Supervisor Fowler's reconnecting on audio. Okay, she's back. Let's see, no change here in terms of any request to hear a matter not on the agenda. Rule 39, consent regular calendar items. No change here. Again, no change on the regular agenda. Okay, on to Rule 40, proclamations. The list of proclamations that the board considers is attached in Appendix E. And let's just walk this through real quick because I know we've had a couple instances where we need to clarify proclamations. So if we can just do this very quickly. So we work with the board on the board's agenda. Outside agencies may request that the board do a proclamation for something that the board does not regularly do. And these requests to do proclamations outside the designated list should get permission from the county manager or chair to be put on the board's agenda. Supervisors may also bring forth proclamations not on the designated list and seek the permission of the chair or county manager to be included on a board agenda. Proclamation shall be placed on the agenda after public comment or prior to consent. Without amendment to these rules, the board may consider a new list of regular proclamations.
So, my comment would be, we need to look over our proclamations periodically, do a revisit on, and more work session type of scenario of, that one, is it just a rote piece? Because these could add up, and they consume meetings. They're very, intense, really good. It's not to discredit that, but there are times that we get to doing proclamations that they're most of the meeting when we have a lot of important business to do. So it's good to pause and say, some of these that kind of run their time, or they're very important, but maybe we don't need to recognize them every year. So, I would encourage all of us just to pause and look at them. Of course, it's always hard because most of them are some type of mom and apple pie type of thing. There will be a constituency behind each proclamation. So, but, for our sake, it's a fair question now and again. Let's pause. Do we really need to keep that? Or can we, get to our business, or what are newer ones, that we need to consider? So.
Other comments? Okay. We'll go on to the next item, public hearings. No change here. Public hearings may be legislative or quasi-adjudicatory in nature upon receipt of a request by agency, etc. So no change there. We'll have to change a couple of the wording where we have administrator instead of manager, but other than that, really no change here. Public comment at public hearing. Again, in accordance with open meeting law, it's been added, and subject to the chair's right to maintain order, any person wishing to speak at a public hearing will be heard. So that's just clarifying language there.
So, and this goes back to, I think Rose had a reference to this. There are only certain circumstances under the quasi-judicial that permits the opportunity associated with how comment is taken. And so, that's one. Lindsay, or Rose, I see Rose is out there also. Rose isn't a panelist, though. It would be good to, oh, yes, she is. She's a panelist. Is she? Do I have that right? No, I don't. On that. That's a piece that I think we should just make sure that we have aligned appropriately for that.
Okay. Okay. Lindsay, did you want to comment? Rose, did you want to comment here?
Yes, actually, Rose and I talked about this. So I think what's reflected in the document does address what you're saying, Chair Ryan, where we broke it between the quasi-adjudicatory hearings and then like the community development type hearings.
Okay. Hey, Steve, I just got a text from Rena that she's trying to get on.
Can we slow down for a moment to make sure we can get Supervisor Fowler back on? She's having technology issues, and so. Sue, Lena indicated her computer went out, or she's not able to, and she's on her iPad right now. Can you, I know right now can't do it right this minute, but if you can let IT know that we've got a technology issue there.
Will do, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks.
If I can, County Manager,
Mhm.
I'm assuming under the public, or the whole section under there, under the public hearings, has been looked at by legal.
Yes, the entire document was sent over to Rose for review.
Because
Yeah, she had, I think she had commented on that before. And it's like, oh yeah, we definitely need to get clarification. Either that or you did. I'm trying to remember who did. But
yeah, I put clarification, but I want to make sure legal looked at this.
yeah.
So,
Rose, do you want to make comment in terms of your review?
Yes, I can speak. And as Lindsay said, we did discuss it because there is a distinction. You know, the board can serve multiple functions, and there are certain times when the board is having a public hearing and they are acting in their legislative function. And so then that is distinct from other times when the board may be acting in a quasi judicial function. And so that's going to impact how they, not just how they take essentially how they take public comment, but in what context and in what format. And certainly in a legislative format, when the board is acting as a legislative entity, then, you know, it can take public comment in all forms, certainly within the public hearing and, you know, within board meetings, but also certainly, you know, from phone calls or emails from constituents. When it's acting as a quasi judicial entity, we need to be much more narrow about how the board receives public comment. Again, there are opportunities for public hearing generally, at least like, you know, in a, say, the appeal of a CUP application. You know, there is still an opportunity for public comment within that. However, you know, really what the board should be doing when it's in the quasi judicial action is really constraining itself to what evidence is presented to it. And so that is where, you know, there are concerns if board members individually are hearing from constituents and engaging with constituents on an issue that is coming to them in their quasi judicial capacity. And I think I think that the ideal situation is to avoid conversations off the record, you know, conversations that are not being, or comments that are not being presented within the hearing itself, and avoid, you know, board members individually investigating, you know, whatever the matter is that may be coming to it in a quasi judicial capacity. So, you know, there is a distinction between those two functions. And Lindsay and I discussed it, and, you know, I hope that we addressed that within the guidelines or these procedures, but I think there was probably some additional research I wanted to do. And so we can certainly clean it up a little bit more if it does not appear to be clear from your reading of it today.
Great. Thank you, Rose. Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Fowler is back on, so we're good. Thanks. Thank you, Rose.
Okay.
So we'll look at that again, Mr. Chair, and others, just to make sure that we're wanting to look at that.
Okay. Yeah, I think, you know, it'd be good just to go through and double check. You know, it's like our practice and advice that we've had all along is we're not going out to do independent investigations when we're in a quasi judicial, and you know, to even flex language on that, I would suggest might not be a good idea. But you know, I hadn't. I focused on it the first time I read it, but I didn't focus on it the second time I read it to see how it was adjusted. So on that, the other one is just to note this is associated with hearings, and I don't know if we need to put it in there, but public comment. Public comment's a courtesy. People have a right to observe. They don't have a right to speak, and we provide it as a courtesy. And usually we go out of our way to allow people to speak, but we need that ability to, if we need to remove the public comment, to have that option available. And it might be well worth just spelling that out in there. Looks like Patrice wants to. Go ahead, Patrice.
and Chair, that's exactly why I put in the at public hearing, because I think that's very different than a regular board meeting where, you know, you do have a public comment on the agenda, but certainly the public are limited in their public comment to that portion of the agenda, and subject to, quite frankly, the chair's acknowledgement and recognition of them, and making sure they meet certain professional standards in presenting the information to the board. So, but that's, I think, just public comment at public hearing. It's not the same as a board meeting.
Mr. Chair, we need to wait out for Supervisor Begay got kicked off, so she's trying to get back in.
Yeah, I'm promoting her.
Okay, thank you.
And then Chair Ryan, I think what you're talking about as far as public comment on the agenda is addressed on Rule 56 further down in the document.
Do I play an Eddie, yes, sir? Oh, yeah, that's right. Thanks, Lindsay.
Let me wait until Supervisor Begay. Lindsay, tell me when. Okay, I see Judy now.
She's in.
All right, good.
Okay. The language on the next page again follows what we just spoke about in terms of the information that's submitted, the public comment, the process of the public hearing, closing comments after the close of hearing. Let's see, should the board close and continue? Again, more information that speaks to the process that's used. A paragraph in reopening the hearing is listed, no change there. Rule 42, minutes and recordings of meetings, and this is information, of course, that the clerk's office takes care of. No change there. On to the next few items. Rule 43, quasi-adjudicatory hearings. Just discuss that. Any comments here? Board member changes based on. Okay. I think the rest is there. Rule 44, order and decorum. The chair shall preserve order and decorum. You can see the rest of the language here in this paragraph. No change here. A board member wishing to speak shall refrain until he or she has been recognized by the chair. No change there. We do have one change in terms of we've just struck including appropriate titles in addressing the public, staff, and each other. So the board is encouraged to use a formal style, but we've struck the rest, which I think speaks to. Rule 45, commitment to civility, again, the conduct of meetings, etc. So no change in this area.
Patrice was flagging your hand up.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Good. Patrice.
I'm sorry. The county manager pointed that out, that we're being professional. Sometimes we use our titles, sometimes we don't. But I think the idea is to be respectful and professional.
Yep.
Rule 46, use of electronic devices and documents. Again, no change there. The board shall refrain from emailing, texting, etc. during the meeting. And then Rule 47, motions general. So any motion for action shall require a second before being acknowledged by the chair. The clerk shall enter into the minutes the motion and the names of the moving and seconding members. After motion is stated by the chair, it shall be open for debate, but may be withdrawn by the maker at any time before a decision is made or amendment adopted. Motion may be amended with the consent of the moving and seconding members at any time before the decision is made. So any discussion on motions? Okay. Rule 48, under voting, and we do have probably some discussion we need to have here. It shall take at least 3 affirmative votes of the board to pass any motion except where a supermajority 4/5 vote or unanimous vote are required by law. An abstention shall count as neither an aye or a no. Lindsay, on this one, I'll go to Patrice first. Patrice?
Yeah, and Chair, this is what I was talking about. You know, obviously, you don't need 3 affirmative votes. You need a majority of votes for a motion to pass. That's normally, unless we decide to change what has been tradition for centuries, probably. And that is, let's say if somebody removes themselves or an abstention, it does not count as a vote. So let's say you've got 4 board members at a board meeting, and you have a 2 in favor, you have 1 opposed, and you have 1 abstention. So you have a 2-to-1 vote. Now, normally that's a motion to carry. And this would not be the case under 48. I think it's been tradition in the past, and one personally I'd like to see continuing to go forward, that a majority vote counts as a passing of a motion. So this would not be the case. I'm not sure why it was put in, but my recommendation would say it takes a majority of those voting to pass any motion. That would be, obviously, majority would be 2 or more.
Yeah, and I feel as though, you know, once upon a time, we've run into this a couple of times before, and we're advised similarly, but, you know, we should pause also. I would agree that we do that, but, you know, pause. Rose, do you have any reaction to that?
No, I think Supervisor Horstman correctly points out that really should be a majority rather than prescribing the specific number. You know, certainly we have situations come up and we've, you know, got to look at the law as to how to count an abstention or a vacancy, or, you know, however, as it impacts the quorum, and it can impact the quorum differently depending on, you know, why that member may not be present. And so I think we leave it to the law to determine what is a majority rather than, you know, prescribing a particular number here. So I agree with that change.
Supervisor Fowler, you came on camera. Did you want to make a comment? Lena, did you want to make a comment on this item?
So
I agree with Supervisor Horstman on that. That was all I was going to say. I had a hard time getting on. Thanks.
Thank you. Matt?
yeah, I'm thinking the one other thing, and Rose, I'll pause for a second on this one is, you know, there are only certain circumstances where we abstain also. And I don't know if it's whether we write that out or not, but sometimes we'll get members, you know, it could be here, it could be other committees that you end up on, that people want to abstain because they don't want to make, they're afraid of voting one way or another. They like both sides or whatever, and they need to make a decision. But, you know, do you think we should put any note associated with that, or just leave it alone?
Real quickly, Mr. Chair, years and years and years and years ago, I had to, as the clerk of the board, was in a situation where, in this particular case, the clerk had a vote, and I went to the county attorney and I said, I'm planning to abstain. And he said, I don't have a legal basis to abstain. And so it speaks to Rose in terms of what is the legal basis by which a member can abstain, because I didn't have a financial interest. There was nothing in it other than the fact that I didn't want to vote on this thing. So Rose, if you could maybe clarify or not, maybe this is an issue that we need to do advice from counsel and have a conversation some other place. But anyway.
I can, you know, it's something I guess I can't necessarily say I'm prepared to speak to right now. It's not a question I've had to look into before in terms of, you know, questioning an abstention. I think we've only done it when you know, a board member has determined that they have a conflict of interest. And so it's something I can certainly look into in terms of, clarifying that abstentions can only be done when there is a legal basis, and that otherwise members must vote when they are present at meetings. And so it's certainly something we can include, so that, members are aware of that obligation, and that, that they've got an obligation to perform the functions of their office, but for when they have a legitimate legal basis for abstention. So it's something I can look into if we want, to maybe provide some more specifics, or we could include the language right now that indicates abstentions shall only be allowed when there is a legal basis for doing so, a generic language like that.
Patrice?
What I would point out, Chair and members of the board, is that we do have in here that we've noticed that there are 2 areas that do allow for not going forward with your duties to vote. One would be, of course, the statutory requirement of conflict of interest, which is required or it's under penalty of law. Or the second, which is what we acknowledge as common law, and that's the appearance of impropriety, where there may not be a statutory reason for you to abstain, but you have a legitimate conflict where you cannot make an impartial decision. So that's not statutory, that's a common law, and that's up to each individual board member to look into their soul, I guess, to determine whether they can make a impartial decision. And if they can't, they do need to state on the record that they are abstaining, that they have an appearance of impropriety. So I think we got to be careful about, obviously we want everybody to do their job and even make those hard decisions, because we all bear that responsibility equally as a board. But we got to be careful. We need to allow board members, if they feel they have bias or cannot be neutral because of because of a close personal relationship that may not be a statutory conflict, that both common law and practice allow us to do that.
Thank you. Lena?
What we have done, I'm sorry, I'm having computer issues. One of my computer just went out on me, and now I'm on my iPad.
Okay, we can hear you. See you fine now.
Anyway, I'm good. Okay, so in the past, what we've done is if someone has a parents or believes they have a conflict of interest, they have just when we're in a full board meeting and on the dais, they will excuse them to leave the boardroom. And I believe that's the way that we've been doing it. So I just want to see where in this case, maybe we can just acknowledge that.
Well, I started this, and I think we've had a valuable conversation. Maybe we have enough in there right now that we need. If people have questions, seek advice. But it's real important for people to acknowledge and realize just because you're afraid of making the decision doesn't mean you have an excuse to hop out of that decision on that while you're present.
We'll do some more work on that, or just we'll look into it. But again, we don't necessarily need to be too specific at this point in time. So we'll come back to the board on that.
And Chair, you will make that change in there. It takes a majority vote of the board to pass any motion instead of 3 affirmative, a majority vote of the board to pass any motion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got that right.
We'll make that change. Okay. Next item, 49 is roll call votes. Again, the process by which that takes place. Conflict of interest, we just went over this item. So we don't have any other comments on this one. Motion to rescind, a motion to rescind any action or motion, again, just clarifying, requires a majority vote, and a motion to rescind is not in order of if action has been taken, it cannot be changed. 52, no change. Again, motion to reconsider. Just do that one. Motion to reconsider. Okay, motion to reconsider. No change there. 53 is substitute motion, and you can see we've clarified this. Substitute motion is, on to the next item, the motion is substantially change the motion in whole or part. And so just clarifying the language here. Thank you. 54, process of considering and approving ordinances. No change here. And then 55, communication outside of public hearings. Ex parte communications, and the rule here that is here that you can see. Legislative actions. Just a small change in the language here. Other than that, stays the same. Quasi-adjudicatory actions, no change. Participation of the public, we just went through this item, and we're going back to that item 56 from the earlier conversation that we talked about here. So no change there. And then orderly conduct. No change. Rule 58, security and prohibition of banners, signs, or other hazardous objects. This was interesting. But again, that's there. Rule 59, county manager shall present. No change here. County, of course, we do a lot of that, delegating responsibility to others on the staff.
Steve, do you want to change that then? The county manager may delegate this responsibility, deputy county manager or designee?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I will, because otherwise.
Just add that?
Yeah, because there are others that present. Yep. Rule 60, county legal counsel shall be present during board meetings and shall serve as advisor to the board on appropriate rules to comply with legal requirements. All actions of the law shall be referred to county legal. We may substitute county attorney just to clarify the provider in that. So this was more a California wording here. So I think we'll just substitute out county attorney where you see county legal counsel.
Except sometimes you do have county legal counsel, outside counsel from the county attorney's office.
We may do just a clerk of the board, same item, shall be present. All the duties that they're going to be doing during the meeting. So no change here. Rule 62, this is definitely different. A sheriff or representative may be present. Now that may happen, and in some cases we have had a deputy at public hearings, but I don't know, Mr. Chair, that it is something that we necessarily need to put in our rules of procedure. But I'll leave that for discussion.
No, I would agree, Steve, but it's acknowledging, I mean, there are times that we have had to have, we reach out to the sheriff and the sheriff has been quite cooperative, and actually it provides an opportunity for him to pick and choose who he has in there, how they are present. They might be in cities or something like that, all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't have to be written as a rule so much as we know we have that. And it's important, if we're starting to lose order, we have the opportunity to reach out. The sheriff is our law enforcement authority to help us with the conduct.
Sue, you had a comment?
I do, Mr. Chairman, County Manager Peru. My question on that one is it actually making a designation that the authority that we would call on is the sheriff rather than any other authority such as the police department?
It varies. In meetings, it's the sheriff. If it's in the parking lot, it's the police. Yeah.
So perhaps that's why the rule is part of the procedures.
So we'll look at that, but I don't know that we need to be that specific.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would do whatever we would need to do in terms of the necessary legal enforcement or law enforcement agency to be present for certain things.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Department and agency directors, which is mostly department directors, shall be available for the purpose of providing information to the board and shall attend any board meeting when requested to do so by a board member or county manager. Staff primary duty during. I don't know that we need this in it. I mean, it seems that it would be happening anyway, but we can, again.
And Chair, what I would recommend is that, this was presented to us as a part of the draft. I don't think it's essential either. So I would recommend that the board just leave that to the county manager for 62 and 63. And if he recommends we don't need it, that's fine with me.
Yep. Sounds
Lena,
good.
Lena, you had a comment?
Yes, and that was gonna be, I guess, similar is that I think if that's been up to the county manager, and then, with the agenda review that takes place prior to these board meetings, well ahead of time, that's when the staff know who needs to be here. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Matt,
Yeah, go ahead. Is that Judy? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I just want to say, I believe that it should be dealt by the county manager in those two areas there. And so that's what comment I have to make.
All right.
Thanks,
So there you go, Steve. Go ahead
Yeah.
and strike that baby, huh?
Committees, the county manager and coordination public affairs director, clerk of the board, et cetera, shall consider whether any committees are no longer necessary for board members to be on, as well as if needed for the county. If they are not needed, staff will bring an item to disband the unnecessary committee to the full board to consider. All members who are assigned to special projects, committees, or separate boards or commissions shall provide regular reports to the full board regarding their activity in connection to the special projects, committees, and separate boards or commissions. During the roundtable portion of the committee of the meeting, committee members shall call board committee meetings as needed, provided they are held in conformance with the law. The county manager's office and county counsel or county attorney shall serve as support staff to all standing and ad hoc committees consisting of members of boards of supervisors. Other department heads and or staff may also support as requested by the committee. So, comments or questions here?
Probably my comment would be, we've gotten, again, that's part of the desired outcome of the roundtable. We're in extraordinary times, and we do report backs, but we're quasi-regular, and it's just, we'll try and get it better at providing time, but for the sake of board members doing their district report, that's the great opportunity to provide your report back associated with the committees that you serve on as well.
Rule 64, standing committees. Again, definition, the chair with input, board members shall appoint members to each standing committee. We don't have standing committees that I don't believe we do.
We've done it before, designate two board members to go off and work together on an item, and work with staff and bring it back. So we have done that, but they're temporary in nature.
Okay.
Not often, but sometimes.
Okay. And then
Patrice? Sorry.
And
Patrice.
I'd say the same thing here. These came to us as a kind of a draft, so I didn't know if we had standing committees either. And certainly there's nothing in here that would prevent us, the board, from establishing a committee at a board meeting. So if there aren't any standing committees, take out 64, because the board can still create all the committees we want as we may see appropriate. It doesn't limit us, but I didn't know whether I never heard of a standing committee, but I thought, well, maybe it exists out there. So
that's, again, we borrowed this from another county, so that's kind of where we had this that came from. So again, we'll look at these to see so at the staff level, if really it doesn't apply to us, we will in the second draft, we'll be eliminating some of these items. Ad hoc committees. Now, there may be in some cases though, and this is going to come up when we have the discussion next week on a potential jail district tax question. because we are going to be recommending the appointment of a citizens committee. So that would be in essence that kind of an ad hoc type of group. So again, we do have certain circumstances where that happens. Okay. Let's see, let's go on to Rule 66, board committees, assignments external, in which members are supervisors or members. The board members may sit on various committees for the community and different organizations external of the county organizations such as NACO, CSA, Flagstaff Business Alliance, etc. The clerk shall maintain a list of board committees and assignments with assistance of the public affairs director, which can be found in Appendix F. Annually, the incoming chair shall review the list of committees and assignments. Upon discussion with the supervisors, shall determine which members to appoint for the upcoming year. Now, that's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be bringing this back to the board. Without amendment to these rules, the list of appointments shall be adopted by the board. Now, we did strike because, of course, we don't always do it at the first meeting. So we did it at a meeting in January, which will probably end up being, Lindsay, is this going to be in January or February?
Next week.
It's on the, it's Tuesday at 18.
Okay, so we're in compliance with the month at least. And may change annually. It is important to note that board members should not attend committee meetings in which they are not a member or alternate member unless specifically requested to attend by the board member who is the committee member to fill in for them due to an absence. And then we've added, or unless the meeting is open to the public.
So I caught that one.
Yep.
And I understand the desired intent with the statement, but a lot of these assignments that we're on are open to the public. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. Mm-hmm. And so, and the intent is that we don't create a pseudo board meeting by having 3 members present during those meetings. So that's where I would say, that language, most of our committees are, not all of them, but a lot of them are.
Okay. Patrice?
Yeah, and Chair, what I was trying to get at, and that's probably an inartful way of doing it, is that here's an example, WIR. A lot of times the WIR meetings will be in conjunction with NACO. Sometimes they won't be, but there may be other supervisors who attend other than, the WIR representative, which is me, but they're open to the public and they're of interest and other board members want to go. They are not representing the county at those. They are not officially recognized, but they're in attendance. And, I think it's a great thing for them to be in attendance, to be honest, because I think a lot of what is discussed is relevant to all of us and relevant to the county. So what I was trying to get at is that if a board member wants to attend one of these meetings that in fact are open to the public, and I understand what you're saying, but they're all open to the public. Mm-hmm. I don't see why they can't attend. And then we, because I think it's important for them to hear it, but I think we have a section in here that talks about notifying the staff, that they're going to be in attendance so they can do the required notice.
Okay. Lena?
And that was my thought. I mean, I know that the last WIR meeting, I think we did have all the board members that had attended or gone to the meeting were in attendance, and I thought that was fabulous. So, but I think it helps everybody.
Thank you. Lena?
But WIR is part of our membership. So I think that's not I guess it's an example, but we all do attend those and we've always have. But when it comes to these other committees, I think it's for quorum purpose. I think that we have to, probably let Lindsay know that we are attending which meetings, and that way we're not creating a quorum.
Yep.
And when a quorum is also convened, does the clerk of the board have to be there to take notes? When does that happen? Because it is not a board meeting. but a board meeting comes about. So how does, when is it become a board meeting when there's a, 3 or more members attending a certain meeting? I know that we post at these national meetings, that's just the way it is. The state meetings that we're members of, we post all of those. But when we have side meetings that we are running and when the quorum it comes together, then how is that treated?
Mr. Chair, can I ask Lindsay to respond to that before?
Actually, let me throw something in real quick here on it. I guess a piece of what we're trying to get to is if we have another board member showing one is you need to post it no matter what. It could be like showing up at a social agenda or something like that on it. But it's the understanding of the roles that there are only certain members that are on that committee that have a role associated with it. And whatever's happening on that committee is reported back to the supervisors, but the other member is not to partake in that role. That's the piece that how can they see what's going on with FMDO or any of these committees associated with it? And so maybe that's what we want to try and get to a little bit. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Lindsay, did you want to comment on what you use in terms of differentiating what your role in these other meetings are?
Yes, thank you, Steve. And I've actually talked to Rose regarding this because it was a little confusing to me in the beginning when I first started in this position, because when you look at things like CSA and NACO, back in the day, the Maricopa County clerk was going to the CSA meetings and taking minutes and posting them like board meetings until she got legal input regarding why those may be different than exactly what Vice Chair is referring to, Vice Chair Fowler. And when I've talked to Rose about this issue and trying to determine when there's things that aren't, the ribbon cuttings or the events where the board's not talking about issues, that's easy to identify as just a quorum posting. But there may be meetings that all supervisors go to or 3. And from what Rose has kind of instilled in my thought process is if it's something that could be discussed, even if the supervisors aren't participating in the discussion, but they're there all hearing the information that could affect the decision they may be making in the future, like say something that comes before them in the budget process, that really should be considered a board meeting that would need to be posted with an agenda, which would need minutes, which then actually, even if it's not our meeting and they're attending it, we would then make it public because we have to post the location or the virtual link. So, and that may not have been the intent of whoever is hosting the meeting is for it to be public. So we have to be conscientious of that as well when we have 3 supervisors that may want to attend a meeting that may not necessarily have been intended for the public, but when our 3 supervisors go and we need to post it as an agenda with minutes, then we're making it open to the public.
I think what's stated in here is when it's a public meeting, the committee member to fill in, or unless the meeting is open to the public. But I totally agree with Chair Ryan's admonishment to all of us to remember we're only there as a member of the public and we are not fulfilling the role because the role has been designated to another supervisor. And it's important for us to understand what our roles are for the designated representative versus where we're simply a member of the public.
Okay. Well, we did, and I did highlight the line afterwards in terms of if a quorum will be in attendance, the clerk must be notified, and so that notification does need to take place in those instances. Any other discussion on this one? Okay, moving on. Well, on business, professional conduct, of course. The committees in which the board members appoint members. With the assistance from staff, department staff, who staff the various committees, the clerk shall maintain a list of the committees in which board members are responsible for appointing members. Members are responsible for filling vacancies on various committees and approving appointments of committee members. Some committee memberships are district specific, such as P&Z, Parks and Rec, Merit, Community Action. A list of current committees and their members is attached. Without amendment to these rules, the committee members will be appointed to fill positions. Again, that's something that we do already. Okay.
So actually, last item in this item, more of, we have it next week for last item, so get to looking at those. If there's any shifts that need to happen, I have a couple that are happening. And then for this item, we do have vacancies. So Lindsay will, if she hasn't already mailed out to you, we need to encourage everybody to fill your vacancies that we have out there, depending upon which area on that. So it's just a soft reminder, but it's a critical element to function of what these committees are or commissions.
Role of board supervisors during emergencies, Rule 68. During emergencies and disasters, the board has three primary tasks. First, to establish the policy direction for managing the disaster. Second, to establish policy decisions, including declarations of emergencies, curfews, public closures, etc., which may be declared. And we did some clarifying language here by the authority of the chair. These decisions are part of the policy group that serves as the leadership component of the EOC. Lastly, the greatest role of emergency elected officials is to ensure calm, disseminate information, and encourage cooperation and compliance by the public. And we've cleaned that up a little bit. Now, my comment here is that we may want to say that I had a question on the policy committee, because not in all instances are we going to have a policy committee. I just want to make sure we're not locking ourselves into the policy committee being formed, because really emergency management is helping us drive this process too. So I want to look at this a little bit more to see when a policy committee is called or convened, because then we get into, at least in this particular last one, was the policy committee being joint jurisdictional, because we have city and county, at least in the emergency we've been managing, and who the members of the policy committee should be. So in terms of the policy committee members, it goes without saying you would want the board member whose district the emergency is taking place in. At the same time, you also need the chair you may need the chair also. So again,
it's usually the other way around. It's the chair that's the designee for the emergency. But as courtesy, we definitely want to try and make sure that the district member is in there. It's their community that's being impacted, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. When you start putting the district member in there and the chair's not there and the chair's the designee for the emergency, you start inverting what we've laid out for emergencies.
However, this last year we have two districts that are impacted. So we have two districts without the chair.
I'll say, Steve, it was really difficult when we had the museum flood because we had the chair. I think Vice Chair Fowler was the chair, and then we had the District 1 supervisor, District 2 supervisor, and then there was potential that District 4 may be impacted. So we were having to post as board meetings and do minutes for all these EOC until things calmed down a little bit, and then they just designated the two, District 1 and District 2, to attend those.
Well, and actually, I stayed in the role, but it was a deference of me stepping out so that they could have that opportunity. But there were times where we needed a joint decision to occur, and we had conflict between the two different districts, particularly over in the Schultz fire. And that compromises the intent of the chair. Not just that, we'll use the slide, oh gosh, I can't think of the Woody. No, it's not the Woody. We had a cowboy for a supervisor. I won't say his name, but came on the board, started going out and taking a role of evacuating people and wanted to be the spokesperson. There really is an important role for the chair in the emergencies. That's why they're designated. And when you start to supersede that, it creates conflict. Now, the intent of what we're trying to achieve here is that we want to make sure that the representative supervisor is engaged with their community during the emergency. They're included as much as possible. You want them there. But if we have these situations where we start to get into conflict, those district supervisors need to, pull back a little bit associated with it. And that's it's bubbled up, historically under certain circumstances. The real problem is when people are excluding the district supervisor, where they can't even communicate with their community, and you don't want that happening. By the same token, you can have a supervisor, and I'll say it doesn't have to be a supervisor. It could be a mayor. It could be whomever. That they watch TV and they want to be in the middle of everything, and we have professional staff there to provide information out to the community. And we need the message to be carried by the supervisor. So it's a fine dance of trying to engage the supervisor, involve them, so that we're carrying the right message, so that they are actually interacting with their the communities. And the communities are going to go to their supervisor. That's where our professional staff have to acknowledge it and include them in a professional way. So that's the real trick. And so anyway, I guess I'm probably talking more than I should.
I'll just point out, if there's 3, then it becomes open to the public.
So let's go to Patrice.
And I thought we actually handled it quite well here when we were dealing with the museum fire. We had 2 different district supervisors and a chair who was not part of the districts that were immediately impacted. Certainly the whole county was, and that encompasses all of us, right? But and I thought we did that well, and we just made sure that, quite frankly, that Geronimo and myself are not in the same time at the same place if the chair was there. And I thought we were all very respectful and did a good job of communicating that. So I would hope I hope that process would continue. And if you feel we need more than what's in here, I suggest that we do not do this as part of our policies and procedures, but we discuss that as part of our retreat. And we can discuss this more thoroughly as part of the retreat. The same as if we feel we need to do something more than what's in these rules with regards to attendance at open meetings or what are open committee meetings or organizational meetings. Let's talk about that as part of our retreat. But we don't want to get so bogged down in our policies and procedures that they aren't going to be, that nobody's going to understand them, or we aren't going to be able to follow them. So that's my thoughts.
Great. Other thoughts or comments?
No, to be continued. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say something. I just want to say I agree. It takes a little bit of coordination, and there are times where there are gaps in communication because of that coordination and trying to make it happen. But I think overall we did a good job, and we want to have that flexibility to be able to do that under different circumstances. So overall, I'm good with the language.
So members and Mr. Chair, it is coming up to 1 o'clock. Do we want to take a short half-hour break, or do you want to keep plowing through?
How are we doing? Let's check in with everybody. Thoughts out there? Do you guys want to take a break here? We also have staff that might need a break, to be honest with you.
If I may, Chair, we're almost to the very end.
I know.
So it would seem, and there's not a whole lot of extraneous comments, at least that I can see here. There may be from individual board members. So if we can, why don't we just at least take it to the end, to page 24, and then maybe take a break at that time, lunch break then, if that's okay, County Manager?
I'm good with that. No, we're here for you, so that's fine. Okay,
I'm getting thumbs up out there.
all right, we'll keep
Yeah.
plowing away. So let's go on to Rule 69, quorum postings. That's pretty self-explanatory in terms of the quorum post. We just talked about that for quorum postings. Board members referral to staff. This is an important one. Board member referrals to staff, which anticipates significant staff time, generally 8 hours or more, or other resource commitment and which constitutes departure from established county department policy of chain of command, requires prior board approval. The next, of course, the other comment or the other paragraph, the board shall review and set its policies during the budget process. I'm not going to read it all, but we get to the bottom. An ad hoc committee may also make a referral for staff work with consent of the county manager. So any conversation here?
Yeah, I think we definitely need a conversation here. It is an important one. This one can carry over to the retreat also. But a key piece here is that it's real easy. Staff will drop everything for us, and we've talked about it before. By the same token, we have Steve here. He is our county manager. The good thing is access to staff is great. You can gather information, and when you're working on a district issue that comes from the community, initially you start by yourself. But there's a certain point you'll probably be engaging staff. And then once you start to engage staff, pretty soon it starts to consume staff. And it's a tough one. Sometimes you don't even know you're doing it, but it happens. And we need that brought back to, it needs to be managed by the manager and it coordinated with the manager. And when it starts to get consumptive, it should not be, it's really got to be brought back to the board. Are we going to put resources here on that or not? And that's the intent of what we have here. I mean, the 8-hour thing for now, that could be a litmus test, but and figure out what really works. But it's a component that I think we'll all be guilty of sooner or later. It's like, oh my gosh, didn't expect this thing to get this big. Look how big it's gotten. And it really is consuming staff. And we as board members need to help Steve with that. But more importantly, it's bringing it back to the board, keeping the board informed. And if resources are getting consumed, we need to be able to control that. So others, go ahead, Patrice.
And yes, I really think this is a great one for the retreat for further discussion. And what my thoughts would be for purposes of the policies and procedures is if the county manager feels comfortable with the way this is worded, I'm fine with the way that it's worded. If he thinks and recommends differences to this, then I would love to hear that from him, because the way I look at it is the staff is under the direct control of the county manager, that with the exception of possibly calling to get information for myself and or for constituents, if it's going to take a considerable amount of time, for me it'd be even under 8 hours, quite frankly, but I could live with 8 hours if the county manager can. I want the county manager to know, because otherwise he's going to wonder, why is his staff not doing what they're supposed to be doing for him? And I know we have things that we need help on, and we need our staff to be helpful to us, but it doesn't take much to give a call to the county manager and let them know what's going on, or CCing them on an email to let them know what's going on, so that we are not usurping the authority of our county manager when we utilize staff. And I think that'd be good for us to talk more of at the retreat, because I want to be very, very cognizant of the resources of our limited resources, our staff, and limited time our staff has, and also the authority of the county manager to oversee his staff. So if the county manager is okay with this, I'm okay with this.
And what I'd like to do, Mr. Chair, and to Patrice's point is refer this item to the retreat. Okay. And the reason I want to talk more about this is because then we get into district-specific issues that, since they are district-specific issues, they may, depending on the issue, they may drive a larger amount of time. And I want to kind of look at the unintended consequences of being that may happen if we have bringing an issue back to the full board that is district-specific, that is going to be taking a lot of time. Again, I would just rather than, I think that the wording is fine as it is today, but referring the matter for further discussion to the retreat would be good for the reasons I just talked about. Because when we look at, district-specific issues, we can look at museum as a district-specific issue, inordinate amount of staff time, because that's what is needed. It's not even a discretionary thing. We needed to do all, and we're needing to do all the things we need to do in certain districts because the need is there. And so, but again, there are a lot of different examples. We can take a lot of time doing that. But I think if we can refer this item to the retreat, it would be a good, healthy discussion on how to meter the finite resource that we have in just staff time. So I'll leave it at that.
So, and not to cut out others, anybody else want to comment on this, or are we good with going ahead and referring it over to the retreat at this point? I'm trying to scroll up and down to see you guys. Are you good with the, Geronimo is saying thumbs up. Lena, you good with that?
Yes, I agree with Steve, what he just brought up when it comes to working within our district or issues that we're working on from our own district perspective. So that's really good. Thank you. And we should have further discussion on it. Thanks.
Does that sound good, Judy? I think we're good. Provided the opportunity, I want her to get rest too. Yeah.
And so, yeah, and the other information which speaks to that, we can reserve all this for the retreat though, because it does speak to the issue that we were just talking about.
Okay.
Board of Supervisors office, again, the statutory reference to the duty station, and Lindsay establishes this every year from the board. And Judy did indicate to me via text that she was okay with what we just talked about. She couldn't get on, so she's good with the referral of that item to retreat. But again, back to the duty station. This is established by the clerk's office, and you can see that we need to do that by statute. So, any comment on this?
Yeah.
72, Rule 72. District director position for the supervisor's office. Again, as budget allows, each supervisor has a district director that they may appoint to be filled to assist with necessary duties of the office. And again, goes into the duties. I don't know that there's anything in here that is of particular note. The last sentence, the district director position shall not work. Again, this of course cannot happen on election or campaign activities using county resources or on county time. That is an important clarification.
So actually, just a comment on that.
Mhm.
And I was looking at county time. We had it in there before. This is a political appointment also on it. And so the notice, I put it as, I thought, well, when you say county time, the intent is not to use resources. You don't use county resources. When you have a supervisor that's out in the district, in essence, they're on county time. But are you claiming mileage? No, you shouldn't be claiming mileage if you're doing this, if it's related to an election. The same thing, your political appointee, they need to get off of time, but they're out there, so to speak. You don't claim mileage if there's a campaign going on and you have a district director out there. So that's the part I thought, well, how do you do the time thing? It's more of, you're not using county resources. You're not using the fiducial component of the county for this. you're not using county offices for this. So that's where I was like, it's kind of hard on the time component.
Other comments?
I think that as a legal requirement, if a district director is working on county time, so we're getting paid for the work he is doing or she is doing, then they better not be involved in election or campaign activities. That's
All right, and we'll make sure, we'll confirm our discussion with the county attorney's office. Okay. Next item, Rule 73, District Office Budget, CI and Chair Budget. As budget allows, each supervisor has an operations budget and a budget for CI. When expending district funds, the rules pertaining to ethics, etc., constitutional gift of public fund prohibition applies. Now, I will say that the issue of the district budgets is going to be a retreat item. We need to talk about the structure of budgets within within the 5 districts, and so that we can at least look at that as an item for the retreat. I think the rest of the information, again, I don't know that we need to go into deep detail, because I think the discussion at retreat will tease out some of the questions that we have here. Okay with that? To refer this to retreat? I see a head nod from Patrice. Matt, yes, retreat. Geronimo, Lena, you're
Yes,
good?
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Judy, you're good with referring the district budget item to our retreat time? And I will wait for Judy to, she's good on that too. So we'll continue. CI funds. And you can see the wording here shall be used in accordance with CI guidelines, application process amended, adopted by the board this past year, August of 2021. And it's attached as Appendix 1, and you can see the rest of the wording here. However, using guidelines, I don't know that there's any discussion here, but again, we may have some clarifying discussions at retreat on a couple of things, but again, that's been said and discussed with the board. Chair's budget. During the budget process, the board does allocate an additional chair's budget with a minimal amount of money for the chair to travel. I think this item can also go to the board discussion later on, because I do just want to clarify that, along with some travel questions on the public affairs for board members traveling on behalf of the county. We did establish a fund in the public affairs budget. For this purpose, I want to clarify that, and so that can be bounced to retreat. Food and beverage, again, district made. So supervisor and district director may determine that they need to expend funds from their district budget on food and beverage. The county's food and beverage policy must be followed when expending funds for food and beverage, and the latest version can be obtained. I think we'll end up we'll probably add this as an appendix to the document, because we are continuing, and it's not only just the board, it is the entire organization. We're continuing to refine that policy, and Sue Brown is doing some work and creating some work there. So I'm going to leave it at that. So we'll talk more about that then. Rule 75, travel by supervisors and district directors. Again, speaks to supervisors may conduct travel associated with their role to attend meetings, conferences, etc. County travel policy pertains. I don't know. I think we'll have some discussion when we look at the board budget discussion during the retreat to have this fleshed out a little bit more. But again, this is, I think, what you see here in terms of wording does fit. Okay. 76, supervisor, district, social media, and web page. The supervisor has a web page on the county's website dedicated to their role as a supervisor and district office. The information on the web page shall be maintained by in case by the supervisor and district director. The supervisor may elect to have social media accounts for their role as supervisor as a way to communicate. The supervisor or district director is responsible for any contact put on social media. Supervisor and district director shall read and follow the communications plan and policy, the latest version. I would like to add, and maybe not, I don't want to wordsmith it too much, but I would like to have some mention of working with public affairs when appropriate. But again, we can discuss that more during retreat in terms of roles and responsibilities. Okay. And then Rule 77, office records management retention. Supervisors and district directors are responsible for following the retention schedules related to records in their office. Prior to destroying any records, the district director shall review the retention schedule and complete the certificate. The clerk's office can assist if needed. Upon transition, the supervisor district director shall go through their documents and records, and anything that is deemed historical or pertinent shall be provided to the clerk's office. And this is important in terms of your official acts and the things that you do in public records and documents. And so I know that the clerk's office will be working on this. So 78, merit selection committee. Each supervisor is responsible for a merit selection committee for their district. And then we just reference the appendix on this item. So no big change here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, until you get to the process. Yeah, that's a reminder for everybody. Make sure you have vacancies filled associated with that.
That is true. Proxies for CSA, again, we work closely with your staff and CSA staff to make sure that we have proxies for all the committees, all the members.
Hey, we need your clerk thing to read all these appendixes now.
No, I don't think so.
Oh man, do you guys see this? Do you see this? Oh my gosh.
Might be an insubordinate. It might be an insubordinate in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Well, again, and we do have all the appendices here that go to supporting the processes. So I'm going to turn this off so we can come back to full screen here. So, Mr. Chair, what we'll do is we'll go through the follow-ups and the comments that you've all provided today and refine it. It's not, I think it's an evolutionary thing, developmental process, iterative, if you will. And there's a couple questions that I have on some policy language, but I think this is a good first attempt at accomplishing, I think, a pretty big project that the board had wanted to take care of. So I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. It's a chance to pause. If we're missing something, we can always try and bring it back, or we have the opportunity to get back to it with this. Living document, the things don't always work accordingly. Let's see if it's not working. Let's try and fix it. I would encourage everybody, if you didn't get a chance to read the Appendix A, the governance standards that we refer to in terms of our conduct. It's well done, and I like the edits that are in there, but it really is, an excellent one to go along with this. So other thoughts or comments of where we are with this?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I appreciated listening and going through and having this manual available as a relatively new supervisor. We don't always know where the boundaries are or what's appropriate, what's not, and this lays it out pretty well. And I remember having this conversation at the early spring, whatnot, about adapting it from a California version to this version, and I just wanted to commend the staff on putting something together based on that's functional for us. Like from what I listened to, for those, I believe we have, pretty close to what we need to set policies and really be our roadmap and guidelines on how to operate as supervisors. So thank you.
All right. Here, Patrice, you were flagging your hand. Why don't you go ahead?
And I agree with everything Supervisor Vasquez said, and I just want to thank the staff. I know this took a tremendous amount of time to get this together, put this together, and I thought it was excellent. And I appreciate some of the discussions we've had, and some of the changes that we've talked about. I would like to get this in final form and brought to us for final form and voting in the very, very near future. This has been something a long time coming, and I think it's going to be very helpful for all of us for now and to come. And I also agree with everything that Chair Ryan said as well. This is a living document. Whatever we agree here, we can find, hey, this works, this doesn't work, we need this, we need that. And that's really what this is about. But at least we have a place that we can look to that sets the boards, all of the boards' belief in our roles, responsibilities, and how we act moving forward. So thank the staff for their time commitment on this, and I'm anxious to get this finalized. So thank you.
Rita?
I'm not so anxious. But it is good. I think we need to have more conversations. So I like to, I'm gonna relook at everything again. And then, we made some edits. I know it will be emailed to us. We need to review all those edits again, make those see where those comments, see if it's written the way we believe it should be written. And then there's some that we referred to the board, to our board retreat. So I look forward to those discussions. So thank you.
All right.
And thank you for all your work. It's the way it's laid out. I think it's really, really nicely laid out and really helpful for all the new board members to know what the roles are and what the protocols are. So that's the intent of this. Thank you.
Yeah, the yeoman share of that task goes to Lindsay. So compliments to Lindsay for working on this and trying to put it together as best as it fits us using another jurisdiction's information. Judy, I'm hoping you're out there, but I know you're under the weather also.
Mr. Chair, I'll speak for her. She texted me. She's unable to talk.
Okay.
Her feeling. She wants to thank everyone and she will review it again. And she's looking forward to stop coughing, and so she'll talk when she stops coughing. So
well, you take, I think all of us are saying, take care of yourself, Judy. That's the most important thing. So really appreciate you hanging in there with us. If you don't make it to the rest of the meeting, we fully understand associated with this, and we have the opportunity in the retreat and future discussions on this stuff. My comments similar to everybody. Kudos for all the work that went into it. It's different. I'm always leery of when you try and put it in writing, suddenly you have your whole life dictated for you. A lot of our powers are associated with perception on how we do our job, and yet it helps us align. The virtue of this is it helps us align of what our perceptions are. Are you saying the same thing I'm saying associated with it? And sometimes even if it's in writing, it's still going to be different. But that's part of representation. Is we're representing community. We bring that opportunity here, and how do we conduct ourselves with mutual respect and integrity? That's the key piece. So I think that's outlined quite a bit in here. And good job, Lindsay and Patrice. I know you put a weekend in. I'm sure the rest of you guys did a good bit of reading with this. And if I didn't, I'll give you credit anyway. And I labored through it. I always struggle with, when you go through writing elements like this. We all have skill sets, right? So thank you. So we're talking about taking a break, and we didn't have one planned in, and yet we have more business to conduct associated with the meeting. And so, and it is a Friday, but let's see what we can get done. we're going to need to get a little bit of legislative stuff from Trey, give an opportunity for updates. Do we need 45 minutes? Is that what we're thinking?
Well, let's talk, Mr. Chair, if we could real quick, let me just double check here.
Okay. There's not a ton of stuff that we have in the end. It's stuff we can cover at our future meeting. Of course, again, it is. Yeah.
We're meeting on Tuesday, so we could.
Okay.
I'll just point out, Chair, we don't have legislative on the agenda because that was covered on Tuesday.
Oh, that's right. It was. Well, I have a big list of what I've been doing in everywhere. So I think we need to conduct this meeting all the way through the evening here. No, I'm being a wise guy, as you know. And
we could lose our quorum.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Or your staff.
You mean one of these walkouts? Yeah.
Again, we're going to Wisconsin. Isn't that what they did?
Yeah.
So we,
Steve, do you have just, what if we just go through a quick summary format? Is there anything anybody wants to touch on? Or are you guys okay with that?
Why don't we wait till Tuesday? I know that there probably are some things, but I don't know if it has to be done on a Friday, and it might be nice to have our staff have a Friday afternoon.
Like I got rebellion going on here. Just come on, can we give Steve just like 2 minutes? Can we give Steve 2 minutes in case he has anything there?
Sure.
Okay, I guess.
I will speak quite honestly. We are completely exhausted from the week. It's been a busy week. COVID is impacted us. We sent you the notice on what's happening in the detention facility. And so we're having, some big issues there. It's happening all over the county. We have staffing shortages throughout. The COVID supports that you all adopted earlier this week is so needed and so welcomed. And so, a lot of employees are very thankful for that. I know that we are going to be making a couple of changes not changes, but I know on Tuesday we have a couple things happening because the chair has to be in Phoenix for an event. And so we're going to keep the agenda for the most part intact. If we have to make any changes, Lindsay will know that right away. So again, for the most part, Mr. Chair, I think that we've accomplished a good bit of the public's business this week, and turn it back to you for anything that we would need from you in terms of direction to us.
Yeah, actually, and that's a key point. On the next week's meeting, I've been invited as chair to go down the forest, secretary, as well as, or the Department of Agricultural secretary is coming in. They're gathering the chairs from most of the forested areas, and it's not a dialogue role. It's more of a gathering the right people for a special announcement that's supposed to occur. It will chop up the meeting. As Steve noted, it makes sense to continue with the meeting, except for maybe the two last items. If we can bump them just a little bit later in the afternoon, that we take a broader break associated with them. I think it's important that we have all board members for those last two items in there, which are associated with discussion associated with the jail and discussion with different programming in the second item on that.
And Mr. Chair, with that agenda, we are going to start at 1 o'clock on Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you went ahead and did that. Okay.
Yeah. So so we're good on that end.
And if I'm not there to launch it because I'm getting hung up in that, and I talked to Patrice about it. It's more forest component. I didn't reach out to you though, Geronimo, just to give you a heads up, just as a courtesy, but making you aware. But if I'm not there, Lena, I was texting you earlier, if you could run the meeting until I show up for the meeting, that would be fantastic.
Okay. And when it comes, I'd like to talk to you about your meeting with the forest. We have the KIBAP in my district as well. Thanks.
No, I had the most important part of the KIBAP, just so you know that. No, you don't, Patrice. I do. No, you don't, Lena. I do. Yeah, I love it. All right.
I'm
with-
not engaging. I'm not engaging.
Yeah, okay. I see I'm losing. I better adjourn this meeting. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody. A lot of good
Thank
work.
you. Happy weekend, everyone.
Take care. Be safe.
Take care. Thank you.
Great weekend. Thank you.